Shalom. So today we are going to deal with healing anxiety in the body through the spirit. And we know the spirit is the word, right? So we're going to apply it. We're going to integrate it into our daily lives. And through that, we are going to heal our bodies to become whole again, free from anxiety, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to get familiar with what we call anxiety, because most of the times when we are in this affliction, we tend to run from ourselves. We tend to run from what we're actually going through, right? And avoiding these, maintain the unrealistic ideas of what we're going through. So we don't want to run anymore. We want to face it, and we're going to face it through meditation, right? The Bible talks about praying, fasting, and meditating. But for some reasons, this Western world takes up meditation. It's always fasting and praying, fasting and praying. But meditation is always out of the equation. And this is why in a lot of congregations, you'll have thousands of followers. They fast every day, they pray every day, but they are not whole. Why is that? Why the meditation process gets neglected? Now, this is very important, right? So we are going to learn now how to face our anxiety and how to overcome our anxiety, right? So we have a few questions that this is what helped me with mine when I was going through, right? Because I was in a narcissistic relationship. So you know how that goes if you understand what narcissism really is, right? Because you have the word narcissist, but the experience, if somebody should talk about the details of their experience, it's 100 times worse than the word itself. So if you don't have the experience to put with this, it's hard for you to even understand or to even think of understanding it. But for those who experience it, they will actually understand better. So let us get familiar with our feelings and start our healing process. Now, the first question is this that we call anxiety. What is it? Whatever triggers that feeling of anxiety for you, when you question it, what answers do you come up with? What is the anxiety? It is just feeling unsafe, right? So when you're experiencing anxiety, you really feel very unsafe. Now, if anxiety is feeling unsafe, because we need to understand every aspect of everything we encounter or experience along this journey so we can become whole again, right? So what is feeling? What is a feeling? Again, like I said, the Western world, they define everything for us, so we never really took the time out to really see if how they define things are the way we experience the reality of them, or is it different? We just accept what they told us to be true, and we forget everything else about what we experienced, right? No, a feeling takes place where? Here. So when you're experiencing a sensation and then the thought that is mixed or surrounds the sensation, that is called a feeling. So feeling really happens where? In the mind. But again, like I said, with how the Western world defines words, you will think feeling has to be always tactile. It has to be relating to the sense of touch, right? When you're dealing with a toothache, You are feeling something, right? But what you don't have is, you don't have a story attached to the toothache. When you're having a headache, you don't have a story attached to the headache. So these are not considered to be feeling, right? But what happens when you experience rejection? There's a story that is attached to it. So there's a feeling, because you're now experienced both in your body and in your mind because of the thought that is attached to it. So you see, you can have sensations in the body and there is no thought or stories or beliefs added to it. But there are other sensations that stories are attached to it, and this is what we call feeling. So it's like a mixture of what happens in the body and in the mind, right? So I hope we are clear on that, because the whole point of this is to have 100% clarity so we can see things for what they are and not how we want to feel about them or think about them, right? Now, your next question is, because this is where we're going to get familiar with the anxiety, we're not going to run from it anymore. We're going to face it. We're going to face it just as we're facing each other now, right? So you're going to look the anxiety in the eye and you're going to ask, where is this experienced? Where is the anxiety experienced? Now you're going to have to find a location. Do you experience it in your spirit? Do you experience it in your body? Or do you experience it in your mind? The spirit does not know anxiety because it does not jump to the future. It's always present, right? The body, do you experience your anxiety in the body? Yes. So you're getting familiar with it. It's experienced in the body, not in the mind, right? No, your next question is, what exactly do you experience in the body? So now you're going to have to go to the experience of your anxiety. And now you're going to make a list of all the things you experience, right? So from my experience, these are some of the things that I experience, right? Comes with a form of dizziness. So what do you actually experience in the body? Know that you know that is happening in the body, right? It's not in your spirit, it's not in the mind, in the body. Now, what is it that you experience? Now, from my experience, dizzy, for example, when I would go for the goats and I stoop down to untie the ropes, getting up is like everything starts spinning, right? That used to be very frequent, but I didn't resist. I didn't put up resistance to any of these symptoms, right? Short of breath. So sometimes it's like you feel you get tired easily, right? A little moving from here to there is like you're already tired. And that's not normal for me, right? Now, with the heart race, that was so strong. That was like a special detector there in the forefront that picks up that. So in the event where she would call and say she's coming up, right? Automatically that is being triggered and already the heart start pounding, right? Now remember, she's not there yet. She's coming. And this is why it's anxiety, because it's a building up. It's not happening actually in the moment, like as opposed to a panic attack, just suddenly go, right? This is going to happen like in 1 hour, 2 hours, in a week, months, whatever it is. It's a building up process, right? But in this case, she would come in a few hours. So already everything gets triggered. There's no discerning going on. So you cannot stop what's going on in the body because of what's going on up here. Now, the next thing is when you're experiencing such a thing, what's the duration period that it would last for before you return to a calm state? You have to be familiar with these things because remember, you're getting intimate with your anxiety. And you're only going to heal when you start to bring it closer to you. But the further it is away, the more you're running, it's the more painful and it's the more energy and effort you're going to have to put into keeping it out there. And this is why most people become restless. We spend so much time running from ourselves, running from our pain. And this running away from pain is natural, as the scripture said. Observe the ant, observe nature. If you have animals, right? Here's a personal experience with my goat. When she had kid, you had to clean her up and stuff like that. And we didn't get to clean her up. And then she had a little breakout on her tail. And then the flies laid on it. And then the worms come, right? When they start to feed up on her flesh, she ran away. And it was somebody that caught her in his field. He was a good man because he tied her. And that's how we found her. Where she went was somewhere that she never went before. We never took her there. She never went there. But this is what the pain does. So you hear us saying jumping out of frying pan and jump into the fire. This is what avoidance or running away from your pain does. It makes you restless. And usually it puts you into a worse situation than what you're actually running from. Right? So the discomfort, it feels very unpleasant. It's something that you really cannot stand. You don't want to feel that. This is why you run from it. Because it's happening inside, but you try to distract yourself with so many different things. Whether you want to go to gym, you want to go to do some workout in the yard, you want to take care of your child, you want to be busy doing this, you want to be a super mom, super dad, whatever it is. You want to be the greatest champ boxing. It doesn't matter what you just distract yourself with. There's a feeling that is taking place inside that you cannot run away from. You can only distract yourself for a moment. But you know what it does? You maintain the unrealistic aspect of it. That's what avoiding pains do. You maintain the fact that it's irrational sometimes. You never get to face them to see whether they are real or unreal. Right? Tightness in the throat. Sometimes you feel that ball in the throat or in the stomach that stops you from eating, right? So one of the things I had to do with that was because that's what the stress from these things do. It closes off your digestive system. But it is the discipline that you have to have, the discipline that will tell you that even though your body is not accepting it, it is something that I still need to do. So even if you used to eat a dish this size for dinner or whatever, if you have to start eating this portion. You have to be disciplined enough to eat, at least take a bite, and gradually you start to improve. Now you start eat this portion and this portion and this portion, and over a period of time you're back to eating your normal thing. But if you follow what the stress is telling you not to do, which is not to eat, you know what's going to happen? You're going to start losing weight. You're going to start, your countenance going to be different. Your skin type is going to be different. Your skin is even going to get darker. You're pining away. So it is the discipline that you know that, okay, I need to eat regardless. If it's even one bite, that is still going forward. But the moment you're saying, no, I don't want any food, that's the moment you're stagnant, you're stuck. All right. Now, we talk about the restlessness already. So these are some of the things that you experience in your body. Now, in your own experience, you have to add the other things so you can be conscious of it. Because remember, you're facing it now. You're no longer running away. So you're going to make friends, right? The next question you need to ask yourself is, all of these different things that you experience, where in the body, where exactly? Remember, you've already identified that anxiety in general takes place, is experienced in the body, right? Now, these are the symptoms. You now need to identify exactly the location that you experience each of them. Because remember, you're moving into an intimate relationship with your pain, right? So this tightness, it can be in your throat, it can be in your stomach. You have to notice the difference, the discomfort, the different areas, how you feel, whatever it is. You know, the heart race, well, you know that's going to take place one place, right? The dizziness, everything surrounds it. You have to understand, because you have to know, because your healing is in the realization. It's in the knowing, which we're going to get into. Knowledge, the knowing. The spirit itself is a knowing spirit. However, there's something that combats this knowledge, and this is why we fall into these things. Now let us go to the book of Ecclesiasticus chapter 33 and verse 15. Let's start at 14. It says, good is set against evil, and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. So look upon all the works of the Most High, and there are two and two, one against the other. So you have the spirit. What is against the spirit? The Bible calls it the carnal mind, or the flesh, right? We call it the mind, the body, or the subconscious ego, right? This makes war with this, and this feeds upon what? What does the ego feed upon? It requires only one thing: ignorance. This ignorance makes war with this knowledge. And we're going to see as we get further into what we're discussing. Now, the question is, when you experience anxiety, are all of the threats present? Is it always physically happening around you? Are you always under direct physical attack? The answer is no, right? So the next question is, if the threat is not present, why do I still feel the same symptoms as if the threat was actually present? Now your question to yourself is, When I experience anxiety, are all the threats present? Remember, I said earlier, even when she would call, I still experienced the same thing. There was no physical threat, it was on the phone, but physically, I was experiencing the same symptoms. Why is that so? Let us go to the book of Ecclesiasticus. Sorry, not Ecclesiasticus. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17 and verse 12. It says, "For fear is nothing else but a betraying of the succors." Now, in order for us to understand what this passage is saying, we have to understand what the word succors mean. It is, that relief you get when you know the truth. That's what it's saying. For fear is nothing else but a betraying of the relief which reason offereth, meaning the relief that understanding was supposed to give you. Because remember again, understanding does not take place here, it takes place here, spirit. So when the mind understands something, or when the mind does not understand something, guess what? Who knows that the mind does not understand? Or who knows that the mind understands? It is really the spirit that understands. But we attribute everything to the mind, because when we talk about ourselves, when we say I, we only refer to the mind. We are a very carnal people. This is not even in the equation. Even though we use the word spirit, it's not in the equation, realistically. Understanding doesn't take place in the mind, right? Understanding is a spirit, just like knowing or knowledge is a spirit, right? So it says, "For fear is nothing else but a betraying of the succors which reason offereth, and the expectation from within being less counteth the ignorance more than the cause which bringeth the torment." So you see what brings the torment? The ignorance. So once you forget what you know to be true, the fear is produced through ignorance. It's the fear depends on you to be ignorant. The fear needs you to forget what you know to be true. And once you start to neglect truth or knowledge, then fear comes in. Fear does not exist over here. It cannot exist. This is why it says perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love is not here. Perfect love is here. Fear cannot exist there. The spirit does not know fear. Fear does not abide where the spirit is. Fear belongs to the lower nature. Now, how does this fear come about? What gives birth to fear? Let us go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 30, and verse 24. It says, "Envy and wrath shorten the life, and carefulness bringeth age before the time," meaning makes you old before. What is this carefulness that causes people to age before their time? Today we call it worrying. Yeah, but what does worrying have to do with fear? It has everything to do with fear. Here's an experience. What if you're sitting on your front porch? You know that your son said he was going to go to hang with his friends, but you don't know if he's down the road at the playfield with, friends, or he's up the road at a certain spot with friends. Now you're sitting on your front porch and you see the ambulance pass. It's nothing. There's no recognition, right? Then you see the ambulance pass back to go the opposite direction. Still nothing. But then you see the ambulance pass back. You know what happens now? Now you've given over to it. Now this is where the fear comes in, because you know your son is either up the road or down the road, and there's an ambulance passing. No, this is why I said too much carefulness, too much worrying. Now you start to old before you're young. So because the worrying is happening where? In the mind. And remember, you are ignorant. Ignorant in this case doesn't mean illiterate, but it means that you are ignoring the knowledge, right? So once you ignore the truth or the reality, now you have to form your own conclusion, not from something realistic, but from something you conjured in your own thinking, right? So the worry, because you are because it goes into the subconscious ego. Because it goes into the subconscious ego, it is now going to do what it wants to do with it. And this is automatic. You do not have control over it. Once it goes here, you do not have control over it. It can only be controlled from here, right? So once it gets here, this is where it becomes fear. So the same worry is what turns out to be the fear. But guess what? The fear is experienced how? Physically. So it needs what? A body for the anxiety to be experienced. So the same thing you're worried about, the same thing became the fear, and the same fear is experienced as the anxiety in the body. So we move now from worrying to fear, and from fear to anxiety. And all of this is based upon one thing: ignoring the truth, ignoring the reality, ignoring the fact. Now the question is, now that you know the anxiety, now that you know the fear, now that you know the worries, what do you do? And this is where your healing really starts. What do you do? This is the hardest part. Do nothing. You must be wondering, like, what? Stop allowing your fears, your anxiety, and your worries to dictate the things you do. The ego likes to act. It feeds off that. Matter of fact, the reason why it exists is only because of all of these stories that we feed ourselves. If you take away your stories, there's no such thing as an ego. When you are asleep, where is your ego? It does not exist. So if you get rid of all your stories through what you know to be true, you know what happens? The ego is crucified. It only lives because of the misery and the restlessness and all of these things it put us through. It lives, it feeds off our suffering. This is why you see peace disturbs it so much. For example, a person who is, who don't have things together. You know what happens when they get into a relationship with somebody who have it together, somebody who's at peace? That person becomes their worst enemy, because they're only left to face themselves. Because what are they going to fix? There's nothing there. They can't fix anything. So their peace is going to disturb their demons. So this is why these type of people who don't have it together, they seek relationships with people who are worse than themselves. Because if if I'm emotionally disturbed, if I'm emotionally off balance, and I can be with somebody who is a junkie, guess what? Me fixing the junkie will keep me under the illusion that I'm okay. Nothing is wrong with me. But what happens if I be with a person who has nothing that I can fix? It's gonna show me up, right? So that's how it works. Now, as I said, do nothing. So the spirit is a calm spirit. The spirit is a calm spirit. The ego deals with agitation. So the ego is always restless. The spirit is calm, right? No, antidepressant. Should you? Does the antidepressant heal the anxiety if you're taking it? Does it heal it? Do you find yourself using antidepressant every now and again? If your answer is yes, why? And what does it tell you? For example, if you have the flu and you're taking, say, Theraflu, when you become whole again, the flu is gone, you become whole. Do you continue to take the Theraflu? So it's the same thing. If your anxiety is healed, why would you still be taking anxiety pill every once in a while? It means you're not healed. So again, like I said, ignorance can be very beneficial to others, because if you are ignorant to something, then I can feed you whatever I want. So for the next 5 to 10 years, I can have you buying my antidepressant pills and you've never been healed. Because when you're truly healed, you will have no more need for antidepressant pills because you're whole. I heal my anxiety through meditation. I do not get any, I do not experience this anymore. It's totally purged, right? So what is the trick about these antidepressant pills? Antidepressant, this is really what they do. The brain carry receptors, right? And because a lot of us are so carnal, we need objects to trigger those receptors. This is why we buy pills. This is why we get drugs. This is why we have to get another relationship as soon as we come out of one. This is why we have to go party. This is why we have to go shopping. All of these triggers receptors in our brains. So this is what the pills do. It triggers a receptor and it produces what it needs to produce. So it brings your body into a calm state. Temporary though. So that's a calm that comes from this side. It's not so real because it's temporary. It calms your body of the anxiety. So every time your body gets into that state, you take the pill, the receptors get triggered, and you get calm. It's like it triggers your, what they call, parasympathetic nervous system. So it calms you for the moment. But when it gets triggered from here, guess what? It's not temporary. It's permanent. And this is how you purge. You purge your body of anxiety through the spirit, through knowledge, through understanding. But if you don't understand what you're experiencing, how are you going to heal it? You're going to spend the rest of your days on medication. When all you need to do is fast, pray, and meditate. All three in one. Once you come to the truth of all what you're going through, All you need to do is allow yourself to feel all these feelings. And like I said, do nothing. Because the moment you start to act, the ego starts to act, is the moment you start running. It's the moment you start to avoid. Allow yourself to feel it. Doesn't matter how long, months. It took me 6 months. And it was because I was very constant with meditation. Now, what you will see happening over a process of time, and this is how you will know that you're actually healing. When you get triggered, what happens is the intensity of the pain start to become less. So you might get triggered now and it feels like you cannot bear it. But it keeps going and going until it feels less intense and less intense and less intense, till no longer you have a thought of distracting yourself, reading a book, watching TV, go talk to this person, go over there. You have less interest in doing other things, in engaging in distractions, until when you get triggered, you feel you will not experience any symptoms in your body. It's like it's going through you. That is the acceptance. The ego no longer stands in the way to block whatever is happening. The spirit accepts it. So now it dissolves in the spirit. This is vast. Your spirit is vast. So the ignorance will dissolve in the knowledge. Shalom.